Loyalty. They speak of it as if it were sacred, a fixed point in the chaos. But nothing in power is fixed. Not loyalty, not love, not even truth. What they call loyalty is a transaction dressed in sentiment, sealed in fear, and paid for in usefulness. Men are loyal until they are not, and when they are not, they speak of betrayal as if it emerged from nowhere, as if the bond was wholly unbreakable. But every allegiance is born with a price tag. The only question is when it's collected. A ruler forgets this at his peril. Those who follow you do so because they see their reflection in your shadow, their interest in your success. The moment your shadow shrinks, their eyes look elsewhere. You think they follow because of who you are? No, they follow because of what you give, what you protect, or what you threaten. Strip that away, and you will see the truth. Their loyalty is not to you. It never was. It is to themselves as yours must be. The soldier dies not for the flag, but for the promise that the flag will not forget him. The minister pledges loyalty to the crown, but calculates each nod, each bow, each word against his own rise. The people, they cheer your name in the square as long as bread is warm and enemies are kept at the gate. But let hunger speak louder than rhetoric, and even their memory of you becomes an accusation. This is not bitterness. This is design. The state is not held together by devotion. It is held by pressure, by balance, by arrangement. It is a theater in which loyalty is performed, not possessed. A wise leader cultivates loyalty the way a general positions troops, strategically, temporarily, expecting defection, preparing contingency. He does not rely on affection. He engineers dependence. If they love you, let it be a weakness. You exploit, not one you share. If they fear you, let it be quiet, constant, and reasonable. Too much fear breeds conspiracy. Too little breeds insolence. But fear is the more stable currency. Love can fade. Gratitude can sour. Fear renews itself as long as your hand is steady. Still, even fear has limits. The art is in proportion, in giving just enough safety that they cling to you and just enough danger that they dare not leave. You must ask, what do they stand to lose if they betray me? If the answer is nothing, you are already alone. So bind them, not with words, not with honors, with consequences, with necessity. Let your lieutenants see that their rise is tied to yours and that your fall would be their ruin. Let your allies know that betrayal is not just betrayal of you, but of their own survival. Let the people understand that chaos is always one heartbeat away, and that your hand is the one that holds the pulse steady. Loyalty is not about trust. It is about structure. And in structure, there is control. The naive ruler believes that loyalty is earned through benevolence, but benevolence breeds appetite. The more you give without calculation, the more they come to expect. And when you finally say no, they will not remember the gifts, only the withdrawal. You must understand this. Loyalty bought through kindness is the most fragile. It creates not allegiance, but entitlement. And entitlement, when denied, turns quickly to vengeance. Far better to owe them nothing. Far better to keep their hunger alive, manageable, tethered to your command. Feed them just enough. Reward selectively. Punish invisibly. And always remind them that their place depends on your patience. Even your inner circle, perhaps, especially them, must be subject to this calculus. Your closest allies are your greatest risks. They know your habits. They understand your doubts. They see the mask slide. They can strike where others only guess. Keep them loyal by dividing their ambitions. Let no one man control too much. Rotate their powers. Feed their rivalries. Let them balance each other while you remain the center of gravity. Unity among subordinates is a danger. It creates a power parallel to yours. Divide them, and you rule them. This is not cruelty. This is equilibrium. You must think of loyalty as a lever, not a virtue. It is a mechanism, like fear, like wealth, like law. And like all mechanisms, it must be maintained, calibrated, replaced when it wears out. Do not mourn disloyalty. Anticipate it. Prepare for it. Use it. Each betrayal reveals the pressure points. Each defection shows you who watched too long and wanted too much. Every broken oath is a diagram, a lesson in control. A ruler who survives betrayal is stronger, not because he is more loved, but because he becomes less vulnerable. He no longer imagines loyalty as a shield. He sees it as a mask, and he begins to craft it with precision. There is no final loyalty, only the loyalty of the moment. History remembers rulers not by how well they were loved, but by how long they endured. The throne is not carved from trust. It is forged from necessity, yours and theirs. So build your reign on shifting ground, but with steady hands. Bind with fear, reward with caution, punish with elegance. And always ask not whether they are loyal, but whether they can afford not to be. Because in the end, loyalty is never given. It is engineered, it is enforced, it is conditional. Just like power itself. There are moments, quiet, deceptive moments, when a leader wants to believe in loyalty, when the mask grows heavy and solitude sharpens into doubt, when fatigue whispers that surely someone among them must be true. But this is the seduction of weakness, the lullaby of kings before their fall. You must resist it. You must understand. To lead is to be alone in the crowd, not because no one surrounds you, but because no one truly stands with you. They stand near you. They orbit you. They benefit from your ascent, but they do not share it. They cannot. Power is not something you hold in common. It is singular. It is jealous. It makes companions into competitors and allies into heirs apparent. And all heirs wait. In this waiting, loyalty becomes theater. They kneel, they flatter, they bleed when necessary. But their eyes are on the horizon, on your misstep, on the shifting winds. You must see this before they act on it. You must think through their ambition more clearly than they dare admit to themselves. A leader who survives is not the one who inspires loyalty. It is the one who calculates it. Measure every oath by the weight of its context. Ask, what does he stand to gain by keeping faith? What does he risk if he does not? And never forget that desperation makes men loyal for a time. But once desperation fades, so does obedience. That is why wars produce unity, not because of patriotism, but because survival demands it. The real test of loyalty comes not in crisis, but in comfort, when the enemy recedes, when the rewards of peace tempt disobedience, when ambition once deferred begins to stretch its limbs again. That is the moment you must anticipate. Use peace to re-entrench your grip, not to relax it. Use success to consolidate your authority, not to share it. Use celebration not to bask in gratitude, but to surveil the ambitious. Because success, unguarded, becomes vulnerability, and vulnerability invites betrayal. In every circle of power, there are those who seem loyal because they have not yet had the opportunity to choose otherwise. But opportunity comes. It always comes. A wise leader withholds certain doors. He does not allow all paths to be visible. He creates illusions of advancement, slow ascents that keep them moving, but never close enough to threaten. It is not enough to know who is loyal. You must control the terms by which they remain so. If you must trust, trust strategically. Trust only those whose fate is entangled with yours, whose ruin would mirror your own, not out of sentiment, but structure. Make their elevation dependent on your favor. Let their enemies be your enemies. Let their protection come solely from your patronage. But if they grow too strong, if they begin to believe in their indispensability, act swiftly. The moment a subordinate thinks he cannot be replaced, you have already lost command. Rotate power, reward the obedient, but replace them before they begin to dream. This is not paranoia, it is discipline. Because disloyalty does not always wear a dagger. Sometimes it wears a smile, a delay, a hesitance to execute your will. Sometimes disloyalty is simply a shift in tone, an absence of fear. And it is then, more than ever, that you must reassert control. The kingdom is not lost in open revolt. It is lost in the whispers before it, in the courtiers who stop looking you in the eye, in the aides who ask too many questions, in the commanders who begin to speak as if they were statesmen. Watch for these signs. They are early tremors, and tremors, unchecked, become collapse. There is no such thing as permanent loyalty. There are only overlapping interests and the illusion of permanence they create. The moment those interests diverge, loyalty dissolves. So, you must build mechanisms that make divergence dangerous. You must use their fear of each other to sustain their allegiance to you. You must foster an environment in which departure feels like suicide, political, financial, existential. That is the architecture of durable power. And within that architecture, you must walk alone not in despair, but in clarity. The solitude of leadership is not a flaw, it is a condition. Do not seek intimacy where there must be calculation. Do not demand affection where there must be awe. Do not confuse the language of loyalty with its substance. Men will say anything when they feel watched. They will swear fealty with passion, especially if they think the alternative is punishment. But what they mean is always more complex than what they say. So observe actions, not words. When crisis erupts, who moves toward you and who moves away? Who reinforces your position and who waits to see where power lands? That is where real loyalty reveals itself. In decision, in sacrifice, in risk. But even then, never take it for granted. Even the loyal can become disillusioned. Even the faithful can feel neglected. Power is a fire. It warms, but it also burns. And those who stand closest to it for too long often begin to feel its cost more than its glow. That is why you must rotate your inner circle. Let them feel distance. Let them hunger again for your favor. Let them remember that proximity is a privilege, not a right. And let them know, should they ever betray you, you will not be merciful, you will be surgical. Because mercy, when misplaced, breeds recurrence, and recurrence breeds collapse. Let betrayal be punished not as personal offense, but as systemic infection. Eliminate it with precision, quietly if possible, publicly if necessary, but always with finality. The state cannot afford sentiment, nor can you. This is the unspoken truth of rule. You do not manage people. You manage their fears, their hopes, their dependencies. You do not demand loyalty. You engineer conditions that make disloyalty unthinkable. And when the illusion of loyalty no longer serves you, you dismantle it. Because at the highest level, all bonds are tools. All alliances are temporary. All affection is contingent. The throne does not rest on loyalty. It rests on the perception of inevitability. Make them believe that your fall would undo them all. Then and only then will they remain loyal. Not because they love you, but because they must. The mistake of many rulers is the desire to be loved without being feared. It is a seductive trap, the thought that admiration alone can secure power, that affection will stand guard when the knives come out, that applause in the square means loyalty in the court. But love is fickle, it is seasonal, it thrives in prosperity, it withers in scarcity. Fear is different. Fear is constant. Fear endures. Fear needs no reminder. Love must be fed. Fear must only be remembered. The ruler who seeks love as a substitute for control will always be abandoned, not because his people are evil, but because they are human, and humanity at its core is not loyal, it is responsive. Responsive to gain, responsive to loss, responsive to the shifting winds of opportunity. To understand this is not to lose faith in mankind, it is to govern it. You must learn to see loyalty not as a virtue, but as a variable. In every man, a calculation runs quietly beneath his declarations. Is he still strong? Will he still rise? Will I still profit if I stand beside him, or will I be dragged down by his fall? This calculation determines allegiance more than any speech, any ceremony, any flag. Even families, even blood are not immune. How many brothers have turned on each other for the promise of a throne? How many sons have watched their father's crown and seen only a delay? Dynasties are not preserved by blood, they are preserved by leverage. You must build a world where even your kin think twice before crossing you, not out of hatred, not out of fear of death alone, but because betrayal would cost them more than obedience ever will. That is the calculus of survival. And while others dream of loyalty as a bond, you must sculpt it as a weapon, sharpened through policy, tempered through consequence, wielded with precision. Your ministers must know that deviation is dangerous. Your military must know that hesitation is defeat. Your people must know that your absence would not liberate them, but expose them. This is how you anchor loyalty, not in ideals, but in necessity. People do not follow what they admire. They follow what they depend on. Dependence is the true bedrock of rule. Make them dependent on your protection, your order, your predictability, your ability to shield them from chaos and to unleash it when needed. Let them believe that your authority is the dam holding back the flood. Because when fear of the alternative outweighs resentment of control, loyalty becomes self-reinforcing. And if you must stage loyalty, do it as spectacle. Reward those who pretend well for their performance serves your stability. But always know the difference between the actor and the believer. One will serve while the lights are on, the other while the storm rages. Still, never be content with loyalty alone. It is not a guarantee, it is a delay. Power is maintained not by the belief that you are loved, but by the certainty that you are watched, obeyed, and prepared. Because the same crowd that cheers your triumph will cheer your successor. The same advisor who defends you today may sit quietly as you are brought down tomorrow. And the same generals who swear fealty under your rule will weigh their chances under another's. This is not cynicism. This is equilibrium. You do not preserve order through virtue. You preserve it through awareness. Always listen more than you speak. Watch more than you announce. Act before they think you will. The moment they begin to say, "He would never," you must already be doing it. Loyalty thrives in uncertainty, in the space between comfort and consequence. Too much kindness, and they grow bold. Too much cruelty, and they conspire. The art lies in balance. The ruler must be like the knife in the sheath, always visible, rarely drawn, but known to cut when required. In this space, loyalty breathes. It is careful. It listens. It adjusts itself to your presence. And the wise leader cultivates this not with noise, but with silence. Not with promises, but with presence. For nothing solidifies allegiance like the awareness of power restrained. Let them feel your patience, not your weakness. Let them see your mercy, but never mistake it for tolerance. And never assume that loyalty given once is loyalty forever. Loyalty has a half-life. It must be renewed, re-engineered, reasserted. Just as walls must be rebuilt after each siege, so must authority be reinforced after each challenge, not merely restored, but made stronger than before. And that strength must be visible, because perception rules before policy. If they believe you are falling, they will begin to plan for your absence. If they believe you are inevitable, they will build their futures around your endurance. Let that be your goal, not to be loved, not to be feared, but to be necessary. Because the necessary are obeyed, the necessary are protected, the necessary are never betrayed without cost. The moment you are no longer necessary, you are a memory. History forgets the generous ruler whose palace became a museum, but it remembers the architect of systems, the master of the machinery, the one whose fall tore down others with him. Make your power structural, not emotional. Then even your enemies will maintain your order, because the collapse would cost them more than your reign ever did. And if loyalty survives in such a world, let it, but never expect it, never assume it, never rely upon it. Because in the theater of power, loyalty is a role, a mask, a transaction cloaked in ritual. What matters is not who wears it. What matters is who writes the script. And you must be the one who writes the script. Because the stage belongs to whoever controls the narrative, not to the one who speaks the loudest. Let them wear the mask of loyalty. Let them sing your praises in public halls. Let them kneel at your ceremonies. But let it be you who casts them, who feeds them their lines, who knows what they will say before they say it. That is real control, not the illusion of unity, but the orchestration of appearance. For the people crave certainty more than truth. They do not ask for a loyal state, only a stable one, a predictable one where power, even when cruel, is legible. The unknown frightens them more than the unjust, so you give them the known, a ruler who punishes, yes, but punishes fairly, who rewards, yes, but rewards strategically. Your consistency becomes their comfort. Your discipline becomes their loyalty. And behind that mask, you work. You build networks, not friendships. You shape dependencies, not alliances. You govern, not with sentiment, but with symmetry, a system where no one man can grow larger than the role you allow him to play. Loyalty, if it is to be useful, must never be allowed to transform into confidence. Once a man believes he can act without your sanction, his loyalty begins to rot from the inside. So clip their wings before they know they're flying. Keep ambition fragmented, scattered, watching itself. Let each man guard his place jealously, and in doing so, guard yours. Divide not to weaken the state, but to unify it around your command. Let competition serve your ends. Let fear of irrelevance keep them in motion. Let them dream, but only dreams you can intercept. And should one rise too far, too fast, make an example, not through drama, but through precision. The quiet removal is louder than the public trial. Silence speaks more when it is sudden. Let others wonder what happened. Let fear fill in the blanks. Let your absence of explanation become its own warning. This is how you build loyalty, not through affection, but through gravity. They remain near you not because they adore you, but because there is nowhere else that offers the same pull. You become the axis, not of admiration, of consequence. And consequence sustains empires longer than applause ever will. The philosopher dreams of justice, the priest dreams of virtue, the mob dreams of salvation. But the ruler must dream of control. Because without control, loyalty dies in days. One rumor, one scandal, one show of hesitation, and the edifice crumbles. So, what is control? Control is not domination, it is calibration. It is knowing where the pressure must be applied and where it must be eased. It is understanding that men do not need to love their ruler. They need to believe he knows what they fear. It is knowing that the servant who smiles too often is counting favors, not showing devotion. It is knowing that every gift you give can be resented if given too freely, and every punishment respected if dealt with proportion. Control is what makes loyalty useful. Because without control, loyalty becomes sentiment, and sentiment has no place in the machinery of power. You must remember this when your advisors praise you, when your generals salute you, when the people chant your name. Remember that loyalty wears many faces and all of them are temporary. What you must seek is not their love, not even their respect. You must seek their alignment, their recognition that your rise means theirs, their understanding that your fall would sink them too. And if they forget this, remind them, not with speeches, with example. The disloyal must not only fall, they must fall hard and be seen falling. Their fall is not punishment, It is pedagogy. Let each betrayal be a lesson written in the language of loss. Not because you are cruel, because you are responsible. The state is not a family, it is a mechanism, and a mechanism must be maintained even if the parts squeak, even if they rust, even if they scream as they are replaced. Do not flinch. You are not there to comfort, you are there to endure. And endurance means facing the limits of loyalty with clear eyes and a quiet hand. You are not above betrayal, no ruler is, but you can be ready for it. And more importantly, you can make it costly. This is the heart of political survival, not to be admired, not even to be loved, but to be too dangerous to betray. When they weigh their choices, let the scale always tilt in your favor. Let their fear of consequence outlive their doubt of your strength. Let your absence be more terrifying than your rule. Then and only then will they remain. Not because they want to, because they have no alternative. And that not affection, not faith, not tradition is what they call loyalty. Understand this, and you will endure. Forget it, and you will be remembered not as the wise, not as the strong, but as the fool who mistook applause for permanence. Power does not demand love. It demands comprehension. Comprehend them. Comprehend yourself. And never confuse their smiles with submission. Smile back and sharpen the blade. Every throne is a lie agreed upon, a fiction propped up by uniforms, banners, titles, and rituals. But behind all of it, behind the medals and the mottos, behind the speeches and salutes, there is only one truth that holds it in place: fear, managed well. Loyalty, if it is to be functional, must be tied to consequence, not belief. Men believe many things. They believe in gods, in ideas, in utopias, and they betray all of them, eventually. But what they rarely betray is that which holds their fate in its grip. This is why the ruler cannot be merely symbolic. You cannot be an ornament, you must be an operator. Symbols fade, operators endure. So operate. Govern the nervous system of the state, not its costumes. Wire your authority into their daily survival, into their ambitions, into their safety, into their hunger, into the logic of their next breath. Then loyalty becomes rational, and what is rational is more stable than what is sentimental. When the world changes, and it always does, it is not the most beloved ruler who survives. It is the one who made himself necessary to the new order before the old one had finished collapsing. You must live ahead of the timeline. Predict betrayal not as a possibility, but as a cycle. You cannot prevent it. You can only position yourself so that when it comes, it finds no fertile ground, only walls, watchers, and silent men who remember what happened the last time someone crossed you. Let the whisper of betrayal cost more than its reward. Let those who scheme against you begin to scheme against one another instead. This is not paranoia. This is politics. You must become a master gardener of mistrust. Cultivate just enough suspicion among your closest that no one feels safe conspiring. Let them feel watched. Let them feel replaceable. Let them feel surrounded. Then they will stay loyal not to you, but to their own self-preservation. And that is enough. Because loyalty rooted in survival is more resilient than loyalty rooted in admiration. The admirer drifts, the survivor clings. You must build a court of survivors. Men who understand the stakes, men who have no illusions, men who know that your survival is theirs. Not because you promised them paradise, but because you built a system in which no one escapes unscathed when you fall. That is loyalty forged by architecture, not charisma. And if one of them forgets, remind him not with rage, but with consequence. Do not scream, do not threaten, do not negotiate. Replace. Quietly, quickly, without apology. Others will understand, more from your silence than from your explanation. Fear does not require volume, it requires precision. And loyalty, as an outcome, must always be tethered to memory, the memory of consequence, the memory of removal, the memory of one who once sat where they sit and vanished. Let memory do the work. Because when they remember what you did to the last traitor, you do not need to speak. And the fewer words you need, the more absolute your power becomes. Still, you must not become addicted to punishment. That too is weakness. A ruler who punishes too often reveals that he cannot inspire control by presence alone. It is better to punish rarely and irrevocably. Better to delay action until it is final. Let the betrayal mature. Let the traitor believe they have succeeded. Let their allies begin to whisper freely, then erase them all at once. The message will be clearer. The lesson will be engraved deeper. Loyalty, when bound to fear, must not feel arbitrary. It must feel inevitable. Let them believe that betrayal triggers a law of nature, not your temper. Make disloyalty feel like a law they broke, not a man they offended. In this way, you transform personal power into systemic fear, and systemic fear survives even in your absence. That is the true legacy of rule, not love, passed on, not monuments or statues, but the architecture of fear embedded so deeply that even your successors must govern by it. Let future rulers fear you, even when you're gone, not because of what you built, but because of how you built it. Loyalty then becomes generational, not inherited, imposed. Passed down through consequences remembered, not through ideals spoken. So do not waste time trying to be beloved. Be remembered. Be necessary. Be feared where it matters. And be calm in the face of shifting loyalties, because all loyalty shifts. That is not a failure. That is the condition of power. And to lead is not to escape that condition. It is to manage it. Relentlessly, strategically, without illusion, with the full knowledge that everyone around you wears a mask, and so must you. Because rule is not a matter of sincerity, it is a matter of symmetry, and symmetry requires that if they pretend to be loyal, you pretend to believe them until you no longer need to pretend. And then only then you decide whether to reward the mask or to rip it off. In the end, you must come to terms with what it means to lead in a world where no one stays. Not allies, not friends, not the crowd, not even time. Everything drifts, everything changes, everything forgets. Except power if you hold it well. Loyalty is not your anchor, it is your mirror. It reflects only while the light of your influence shines upon it. The moment it fades, so does the reflection. Do not mistake the echo of your voice for the sound of devotion. Do not confuse the rhythm of obedience for the beat of loyalty. They are with you until they are not. But this should not disillusion you. It should clarify you. Because once you accept that loyalty is conditional, that it is not a gift but a transaction, not a truth but a tool, then you are finally free to rule as the world demands. With eyes open, with a heart that calculates, not pleads, with hands that shape, not tremble. This is the final discipline, to resist the temptation of comfort, to reject the lie of eternal bonds, and to govern not as a man seeking fidelity, but as a force engineering alignment. Let others chase love. Let others weep for betrayal. Let others mistake loyalty for legacy. You build with harder stone. Build with fear, with necessity, with dependence, with the understanding that all who surround you are temporary, but that your structure can outlive them all. And if one day they turn on you as they always do, let them find not a ruler begging for loyalty, but a sovereign who already planned for their disloyalty before they ever dreamed of it. That is power. That is survival. That is rule. And that is the truth about loyalty. It's conditional, always. And the wise ruler designs it that way.